Coming to you from deep in the heart of Texas, this is Punk Brats, a podcast focused on the lives and experiences of our military brats. We didn't serve, we got served. Now here are your Punk Brats, Rose and Lisa.
Hey, it's Rose.
And hey, this is Lisa. Welcome to another episode of Punk Brats. Wow. Hello, everybody out there. Hey, Rose, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
I got some good news.
What's going on?
Been checking our numbers for how many listeners we have. And we're doing really well. And so again, thank you to all of our listeners out there, you guys. You're obviously spreading the word about us. We've had some reviews that we put on our Punk Brats website at www.punkbrats.com. And I'm just so happy. So thank you from one brat to another out there who's supporting us. And of course, to the non-brats as well. We're doing great.
Yeah, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. I'm just blown away and I feel the love. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm doing that little heart signal with my hand right now. You know what I'm talking about? But anyway, yeah, we're listed on major podcast platforms. So y'all can listen to us on Apple, Spotify, Buzzsprout. We're even on YouTube. Google or not Google. Yeah, we are on Google Podcasts, but from what
I was going to say, we are also on Google Podcasts.
Mm-hmm. And but we also have an Instagram page and our user ID is Punk Brats USA. Our Facebook page is Punk Brats, and we're now on X. Is that how you say it? X, formerly known as Twitter.
Yeah, I like X.
X. We're on there as Punk Brats USA. So you guys, we need some followers. Share our pages. We need you to spread the love and spread the word for us. Rose, guess what I forgot to talk about last month when we were talking with Shauna Kenny?
What's going on?
You know how I talked about my European trip?
So much fun.
Yeah, it was so much fun. But I stopped at Dusseldorf, but that wasn't my last city. I didn't even highlight the best city, one of my favorite cities when we left and flew back home to Texas. But we went from Dusseldorf to Berlin. And I wanted to just take a moment to highlight Berlin because we got the opportunity to go to Checkpoint Charlie. Remember Checkpoint Charlie?
Oh, yeah, of course.
See, when Rose and I lived in Germany, it was still East Germany and the wall was still up. And now Chris and I go to go visit that same spot. And I'm literally looking at the gate of Checkpoint Charlie. And guess what's right behind it?
What is it?
A freaking McDonald's.
No, really?
I'm like, what the hell? It was just crazy and surreal for me because I just remember East Germany the way it was when I was in high school, you know, and now it's just like this tourist, like total attraction. And there's a museum across the street, like, you know, like a souvenir shop, the McDonald's, there's a I think there's like a Starbucks, and I'm just like, what?
Wow, that is kind of crazy.
Yeah. But I just wanted to highlight that I also got an opportunity to go to Berlin and I love that city.
Yeah, I think it's one of my favorite cities. Berlin was my high school field trip or class field trip. Remember at our school, we took a whole week to go on a class field trip, which was another one of the weird things that when we moved to Germany that I wasn't used to was the class field trips.
Our international school, each class grade, freshmen through the seniors, each class grade got 1 week to go as an entire class on a trip somewhere and paid for by the school. And I remember my freshman year, I think we went to Holland, the Netherlands, and we went to go clam digging or something. I can't remember.
I thought you went to...
I can't remember.
I think you went to Denmark.
I can't.
Right? I think you went to Denmark, no?
It wasn't Denmark. I think it was Netherlands. Yeah. It's that picture of me and JoJo in the yearbook and I have on my Facebook page, but yeah, but that's the cool things we got to do in our school, huh?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Yep. Berlin was my trip. And I loved it. It was so much fun.
Look, any American teenager who is in Germany or any part of Europe loves it. They have to.
Of course.
I mean, I'm assuming they do just because of the perks. Like, oh my gosh, I'm 16 partying like I'm 21. And I'm not saying that that's the only reason it was cool, but yeah, it was cool for that.
Yeah. I was going to say that was definitely a perk growing up overseas.
So anyway, that's what I wanted to share. And
cool.
Anyway, you got anything to share with us?
I guess that'll bring me to our Did You Know this month.
Oh, what you got for us?
Well, this one was really interesting. According to military.com, there are more children than service members.
What?
So there are more military brats than service members, active duty service members. Yep. Since the 1970s.
You got some numbers?
Yeah. Cool. I'm about to let you know. Since the 1970s, military families have grown so much that military children now outnumber actual U.S. troops by a ratio of 1.4 to 1. So, I mean, it's not like a huge margin, but we can, assume that with this trend that the number probably will grow.
Wow. That's a great Did You Know? I had no idea. I just assumed, I didn't realize we were in those numbers, that military brats, there's so many of us out there. Well, heck, I'd like to have 15 million followers. So let's get the trend, y'all. Punk Brats, follow us on Facebook, please. Let's get this going. Let's put military brats on the map. We're such an unrecognized community, But thanks, Rose.
You're welcome.
But following that, it's the month of December. I love December.
I love December.
It's bittersweet, right? It's the close of a new year, but yet I love the holidays. I love Christmas time, and and I know that I'm rolling into a new year.
It's always so pretty out. I like driving into my neighborhood, and all my neighbors have their lights and stuff up. We were late this year, actually. I think so I live in a cul-de-sac, and all the homes had their lights on except for ours and one across the street from me.
But you got lights up now, right?
Yeah, I have lights up now, but and I usually try and get them up the Friday after Thanksgiving, but we just had so much going on. So I would come home and I'd see everybody's lights and I would be jealous. And I was like, I gotta get these lights up, And then my husband surprised me. I was at work, came home and the lights are up. And I was like, it was so cool. I mean, everything about December. I just love December.
Tell us what's happening in December. You got any dates?
Well, so some of the events in December, a sad day, a day that will go down in infamy, of course, December 7th, Pearl Harbor. And I don't remember, I don't know if you remember us going to the memorial, the Arizona, in Hawaii.
Yes, absolutely.
Hawaii. Yeah, that was where you walk over and you can see the ship. It was just really.
We stopped in Hawaii coming home from California.
Yeah. Both ways.
Oh my gosh.
We were living in Japan and we went to California. And so we were taking Space A trips. Do you remember Space Available trips? I don't know. Do they still do that?
I have no idea, but Space A was a trip for us. Speaking of Hawaii, you have to share.
That's what I mean. So we were stuck in Hawaii. Yeah. We got bumped. So Space Available basically is cargo planes and any type of plane that is flying from base to base. And if there is space available, hence the name Space A, for passengers, they would let you go on. You could go on the airplane and go where you needed to go. So we were trying to get to California from Japan on a vacation with. So it was my mom, Lisa, and our little sister, right? Yeah, the four of us. And so wherever the plane lands, if for some reason they need that space for like extra cargo or whatever they're using the airplane for, you would get bumped. They'd say you get bumped. And then
I believe in our case, we were bumped because of officers.
I don't remember.
Remember?
I don't remember that. But I mean,
I thought it was like another like high ranking officer who needed the space. And so we got bumped.
I know that active duty always comes first and then dependents. And the only people after the dependents were the retirees who got to use it. Oh, and it was only $10 or it was free. It was like free or $10, right?
Yeah.
So you're saving a lot of money. That was the other perk of it. Because
but we're coming home from California, going back to
Japan, and we get bumped in Hawaii, and we have the greatest time ever.
We were there for 2 nights, almost 3. And then in those that time, we met other brats who were also like in our situation, stuck at the airport. And didn't you make like some lifelong friends or some pen pals? Or
yeah, I mean, we made friends and we wrote to each other because also if you're sending a letter between bases, you don't have to pay for a stamp.
But I mean, like we owned that airport is what I'm saying. Like we roamed it for like remember the game room and all that. And we ate snack bar food or the airport food on the base at Hickam.
And went shopping. We went to the Ala Moana Center. I remember going to the mall, the Ala Moana Center, and I went to go buy a record, a Bow Wow Wow record.
Fun.
And Mom was getting ready to pay for it, and she saw the Annabelle Lewin on the cover.
It was candy.
She was like scantily clad, and Mom was like, "Nope, I'm not paying for that." And I was so upset and so mad.
Oh my gosh. But really quick, I mean, I do remember I was jealous because like I said, you were in high school, I was in middle school, and you met those 2 kids. It was a guy and a girl, and they were also in high school. And I was so jealous because you went off and just hung out with them and you weren't hanging out with me any longer in the airport. And do you remember those 2? I can't.
I think so. I mean, I did make friends with people.
But that's my point is, we're military brats. We don't even know these kids, but we connected with them and you ended up writing to them as pen pals for a while.
And that's what I was saying about it was easy to be pen pals because, you just write a letter and drop it in the mailbox. You don't even have to worry about getting a stamp or anything, which was kind of cool.
So what else is happening in December?
We also have we have Christmas, of course. We have the National Guard's birthday.
Hey.
Yeah. Happy birthday, National Guard. On the 13th is the National Guard's birthday.
Hey, speaking of, okay, I got to pause here. We're going to highlight our punk brat Rose, who served in the U.S. Army National Guard. Thank you for your service, Rose. If y'all go to our Facebook,
my honor.
Go to our website. We've got her on there, highlighting Rose on the Punk Brats website. But yeah, I'm proud of you, Rose. You kick ass. You're a badass sister.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I wore combat boots. I still wear them. Just for fashion now, though.
Well,
back then it was a job, but yeah, it was pretty cool. It's still kind of surreal to me to think that I went through all that, like the whole basic training and the,
being gassed in that room.
Yeah, that was the worst.
That was bad. Yeah.
That was pretty bad. I mean, yeah, I don't need to revisit that. I think I have a slight PTSD.
I wish there was like a picture, like a camera in that room, like to film you guys, like the faces that you guys make when they release the gas, and you're like,
no, I'm
snotty and all coughing up phlegm.
Every part. I mean, my nose, my mouth, everything. Your eyes, you're crying, and it's just and it's everybody out there with the same thing, and it was so gross.
But God bless all of you guys who do it, because I could see people just quitting on the spot saying, nope, I ain't doing this.
Oh, that thought did occur to me.
But I just really appreciate you and everybody who serves our country. And but anyway, again, I wish you and I could talk forever back and forth and reminisce about our lives, but it's time to introduce the guest.
So our next guest coming up is Joe Condrill. And you know what's really unique about Joe, and he'll probably talk about this, is that he's also a veteran as well as military brat. He's our first military brat who's a veteran. And he's actually the creator of Overseas Brats, which is the largest U.S. military brat organization. So I'm really looking forward to hearing him tell his stories, both as a brat and a veteran.
Yeah, cool. Well, let's bring Joe out.
Welcome, Joe Condrill, president of Overseas Brats. Welcome to the Punk Brat Show.
Hi, Joe. It's
Thank
Rose.
You. Rose, what a pleasure to finally meet you.
You too.
Lisa and I have already had a meeting or two or three.
We have.
Yes, that's right.
Well, welcome, Joe. I'm so excited about speaking with you and another punk brat. Rose and I have decided that everybody's a punk brat too if you're a military brat. If you're part of the show, you call. We want to refer to you as a punk brat as well. So, of course.
Yes, you are part of our crew now.
Awesome.
So we always like to get to know our guests before getting heavy into the interview. So will you please tell our audience a little bit about yourself, where you were born and your military brathood?
Yeah. I was born in Fort Eustis, Virginia. My father was an Army officer, a career Army officer. I lived throughout the United States, different forts and bases around the United States. And then for overseas, we went to Boeblingen, Germany for 2 years. I spent a summer of 1965 in Italy. And then I went on. We were supposed to go to France for 2 years, but that was the year that de Gaulle kicked us out of NATO. And so I came home after a year. And then I spent 2 years in Hawaii. That was supposed to be 3 years, but then my father was called to Southeast Asia, and we went to Thailand.
Oh, wow.
And I spent 2 years of high school in Thailand at the International School, Bangkok. And then when I finished that, my father had finished 30 years in the Army, and the Army didn't know what to do with my father, so they sent him back to the Pentagon. And the day before I was supposed to register in the Fairfax County school system in Virginia, my father came home and said, "We're going to Iran." So that's where I spent my last year of high school, at the Tehran American School in Iran. And I graduated from the American Embassy grounds in May of 1973.
Wow, that's exciting. Just going back a little bit on that timeline. Oh my gosh, you lived in France, Honolulu, Hawaii, Thailand. Rose, can you imagine the views?
Oh
the oceans,
Germany,
everything. Oh my gosh, Germany. But I'm an ocean person, so I'm just talking about all the water that would surround those areas, you know? Oh my gosh. But yeah, Germany too.
And did you say Thailand and Iran?
Yeah, Iran.
Wow.
He's an international brat like us. He didn't go to
That's
so
really
they didn't
cool.
have like a DoD school there, right?
Yeah, we see what happened was that when we went to Thailand, the military recognized that, they could not put a DoD school in Bangkok. And so they accredited the international school there. And that's where nearly all the military dependents actually went to school. The government actually paid the international school to have us go there. And the same thing actually happened to us when we went to Iran. There was an international school there, but it was more Iranian kind of connected. And so there was an embassy school that eventually accredited a high school. And that's where I graduated from high school, was at an American Overseas School, an embassy school that was in Iran. And that actually was being under consideration for becoming a DoD school. But by the time things were starting to come into place, that's when the Islamic Revolution came in and the school finally closed.
Wow. So that's similar to our situation when we moved to Germany. Lisa and I moved to Germany, and we ended up going to an international school in Dusseldorf because when my father was stationed, there was not a DoD school.
No, those things happen. And I discovered that there's no real definition of how we can predetermine where our parents are going to be sent or where we're going to end up. And we just make the best of the situation,
You know, I was just telling that to my husband because when I took him to show him where I grew up in Germany, and he looked at our small apartment and the cobblestones and just the small farm in front of where our apartment is, because he's used to, of course, where we're from in Texas. He was like, "Oh my gosh, this is where you grew up." And I'm like, "Yeah, but we made the best of it." And I have lifelong friends from that small little town of Rheinberg. So
I bet. Over the years, I've discovered three things that kind of really define us. And these are the three brat four-letter words. One is called from, that defines us. Home is a place, is more than a location. It's those people in whom we find a place of acceptance. And the last word is moved. It means accepting the next challenge and the opportunity in our lives.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
That's so true.
So I was just going to ask Joe real quick, having been to all those different places and living in all those different places and going to all those different schools, one of the things I like to ask our guests is, how do you feel when someone asks you where you're from?
I think, two of your past guests, Andre and Shauna, actually really kind of touched on this in a great way. The way I respond is I begin with what I call brat radar. Okay.
Okay.
As brats, we judge pretty much the people that we're visiting with. And if it's somebody who, doesn't really have a connection with me and comes up and says, "Where are you from?" I'll just say, "Euless, Texas." Okay. Well, that's where I live now. And he'll say, "Oh, I got a cousin in Bedford." Well, small world. But if it's somebody that's really genuine, having a genuine conversation with me, I will start off with saying maybe I'm an Army Brat. And they'll say, "Well, where did you go? Where were you part of?" Then I'll say I'm an Overseas Brat, and that will perk their interest. And then we'll get more, into the definition of what that means or what that was meant for me personally. Yeah. So it just depends, again, on the person and the situation that I'm in.
Well, where did you go after you graduated high school? Where did life take you after that?
Okay, I went on to a year of school in San Francisco. And by that time, in 1973, 74, I found the itching to go into the military, so I joined the Air Force. I was actually in the process of becoming a broadcaster for AFRTS. And then one day, after I was starting into my training, I got called in to say that my specialty had been halved because at that stage in 1975, the Air Force and the military in general were drawing down from Vietnam, and so they were cutting back on all the positions. So I got called in on a couple occasions, one from a deputy squadron commander who wanted me to go to OTS, and I'm going, "Well, sir, you need a college degree to do that." And he says, "Well, you got some college." And then I had a lieutenant call me and say, "Airman, you've got three options here. You become a medical technician," and I faint at the sight of my own blood, or become a security policeman, and I'd already had enough of weapons, or an honorable discharge. And I went ahead and accepted the honorable discharge.
Wow.
Okay. Wow.
I'm just like, wow. I mean, you went straight from like having this military life of being a brat and living all around the world and then turning around and joining the service. Really, thank you so much for that.
Well, thank you. Yes. One of the funniest things that ever happened to me actually happened in the Air Force. I was called in with a group of airmen into a room, and we were giving forms dealing with a higher security clearance. And, of course, on the form, I had two issues. One, it showed show us where you went to elementary school, junior high, and high school, and they provided one line for each. And then the next question was, list the 3 or 4 locations you have lived in your life. And I took this up to the NCO, and I said, "Sergeant, I went to more schools and places I live than the form allows." And he says, "Well, put that all in the back." And once I did that, he took me into the deputy squadron commander and said, "Airman, how is it that you live in all these places?" And all of a sudden, the squadron commander stepped in. He looked at my form and said, "Airman, were you a military dependent?" And I said, "Yes, sir." And he looked at me and said, "Dismissed." So I never knew if I got my security clearance, but what really got me was, how could an Air Force officer and an NCO not understand where brats have been, Yeah.
Yeah, that is perplexing. Well, thank you for your service. I really appreciate it. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
So after you got out of the military, what did you do from there?
I've gone to graduate from Trinity University in San Antonio with a degree in broadcast journalism.
Okay.
And then from there, I worked briefly for the NBC affiliate in San Antonio, which was then WOAI-TV, which is KMOL TV Channel 4 now. And then I went into corporate public relations and meeting planning.
All right.
Oh, wow,
but
that's
somewhere in your career, you ended up on a boat. Well, not a boat, yeah. a cruise boat.
Okay. Actually, that begins from my brotherhood. You see, up until the 1960s, Lisa and Rose, the military sent most of their personnel and families overseas on troop ships, okay? And so in August of 1963, my family was sent to Germany, Bremerhaven, Germany, from New York City, on a troop ship called the USNS Upshur. It was a troop ship from World War II, and that was my first ocean-going experience. And then in the summer of 1968, they still allowed families to be sent overseas on ship, and they allowed us to go on an ocean liner called the SS Lurline, which was run by the Matson Cruise Lines. And, as a kid, I just enjoyed the experiences. And then when I started Overseas Brats back in the 80s, late 80s. I actually met up with a lady who became my former fiance, and we ended up on our first cruise, my first cruise as an adult, with the old Premier Cruise Lines out of Florida. And so as things would go on, I started doing a little bit more cruising, and then the cruise staff got to know me, and they got me more involved. And finally, a cruise director sat me down and said, "You're going to give a couple lectures on board my ship." And so, I gave a couple lectures, and the Royal Caribbean called me up and said, "We want you to work for us." And so that became a 10-year relationship with Royal Caribbean. And then they let me go in 2012. And then in 2013, Princess Cruise Lines said the same thing to me, "Come and work for us." And they retired me about 6 years ago.
Okay. Wow. So you mentioned briefly Overseas Brats just now.
Okay.
Can you tell us a little bit about what that is and what inspired you to start Overseas Brats?
Sure. Well, first off, Overseas Brats is an organization of all military brats, educators, and even family members, like parents or spouses, if you will. We're an association that are involved with the bigger picture of everything that's going around the brat community in general. And we're here to support the brat community. Over the years, we've supported hundreds of different reunions and alumni associations. We publish a publication that comes out 3 times a year about our experiences and our heritage. We actually have events. We have regional get-togethers that are coming up in February of this year, 2024. And then we have an annual national gathering in which we bring some great brats together for a 3 or 4 day event where we sit down, we have we have mini course sessions. We actually have quality time, which we sit down and talk with each other about our heritage and what that means to us. And then brats still like to party. And so, we have a couple great parties.
Yes, we do. But you know
That's
what?
awesome.
Really quick, before we go too much into OSB, going back to you working on the cruise line, I think it's awesome that you had that lifestyle of like being a military brat, being a military veteran, working on a cruise line where you don't sit still because you're in a different, port all the time. With all these ideas building up in your head, like Rose said, you've created this wonderful organization, Overseas Brats. And I just wanted to throw that in there I thought Rose and I had quite the life of living and moving around and all that, but you just continued it on and through to your young adult years.
Well, the interesting thing about all that is that when I came out of that experience, I'd already had 7 languages that I had picked up. And one of my last options when I was in the Air Force was to go to the Defense Language Institute, which the Air Force wanted me to do, but that was going to be an extra 2 years onto my enlistment. But then, in the cruise industry, I would get to use some of those languages again. And I had one occasion in which I was so intimate with the languages that I spoke. One day I was speaking to a waiter in Spanish, and then there was an Italian couple that was on board, and I came up to speak to them because they didn't speak much English. And I found a German couple who came along, and they didn't speak much English, and so I was able to talk to them in their languages. And then a guy from England came up and slapped me on the shoulder and said, "Joe, come have lunch with us." Rose and Lisa, I had not reverted back to English again. I didn't know what they were saying.
Oh my gosh! So you speak 7 languages. What languages are they?
Okay, a lot of portions or more or less portions of 7 languages. They are English, Spanish, Italian, French, Hawaiian, Thai, and the Persian language, Farsi.
Wow, that's incredible. That's really impressive.
Yeah,
that was our heritage,
Mm-hmm.
It is the hardest thing is to learn a foreign language.
Yeah,
as a brat, we get planted in different places, and because we as kids are naturally curious about the cultures we're in, we just kind of naturally begin to pick up in words and phrases, and that was the beginning of each of those experiences for all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. We grew up bilingual, Lisa and I, speaking Korean and English. And we found when we moved to Japan, knowing Korean, I think maybe it made learning Japanese a little bit easier. We ended up learning some Japanese.
It's a very similar language.
Mm-hmm. And then when we moved to Germany, attending the German international school, we ended up learning German.
And just having German friends too, who didn't go to our international school, who just wanted to hang out with us. Like, I forgot to mention his name last episode, but one of the dear friends that I got to see when I went back to Germany was Musi in Rheinberg, where I grew up. And Musi was one of the local high school kids who didn't go to the international school. So we hung out, his group of friends hung out with my group of friends. And I just remember we all got out of school. Well, German kids get out of school like 3 p.m, and we did too, but it's just that long 2-hour bus ride. We didn't get home till like 5:30. But they would always be waiting for the American kids, when we got home from school, and we'd hang out with them and all just speaking with them. My German was all coming back to me. It was pretty cool.
Yeah. I think when you're young, you don't have inhibitions,
No, you don't.
No
and you know something? Even though the expression use it or lose it is true, I discovered when I went back to Thailand and when I went back to France and Germany in the cruise industry, the languages came back.
Yes, sir. It does.
That was one of the questions I asked Lisa on her recent trip to Europe. I asked her, I was like, so did you speak German? Did you get an opportunity to speak German? Did it come back? And she was like, yeah, I think alcohol helps a little.
A beer or two.
But, oh my gosh. Yeah, that's so funny.
Cool. But you created, a wonderful organization that brings overseas brats together from around the world of all ages. And you were the one to explain to me that there are different types of brats out there. Like, you consider yourself an Eisenhower brat is what you called your
Well, generation? I come from the baby boomers generation. But
I'm sorry.
Within the organization,
okay,
that's right. Within the organization itself, our oldest members are part of what's called the Eisenhower generation, which are those born between 1930 and 1945. Okay, and our oldest brat that's involved with us was in the second class from Frankfurt High School, the class of 1948.
Oh, wow. That's pretty impressive.
And I actually knew in the organization 3 guys who graduated the year before. The first year that Dodd schools actually had a graduating class in 1947, 2 guys from Frankfurt and 1 gentleman from Munich High.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Wow, I didn't even realize those schools were that old.
Well, you see what happened was that when Dodds was first created, what actually happened was that in 1946, the call went out by the military because they realized that they were going to need a larger standing force overseas. And so what the military did was they realized that in doing that, they'd have to keep more people in uniform, and that meant having to send the families overseas. So they realized that they could not plunk the kids into local schools because, Japan and Germany were still recovering from the war. So they realized they were going to have to come up with their own school system. And so they put out the call for people to go overseas, teachers to go overseas and be in part of these schools. And so the first group of Dodd's students actually went overseas to Europe and Japan in the spring of 1946. And then the schools in Germany opened up in October of 1946. And the schools in Japan opened up actually in September of 1946. This is about a year after the war. And so at that time, each branch of the service, the Army, the Navy, which included the Marines, and then the Air Force operated different overseas schools. I mean, they were all similar in size and, in terms of concept and administration and curriculum. But then it was not until 1976 that the Department of Defense said, well, wait a minute. You guys are all part of the same school. You're doing the same things. We need to put this all under one big umbrella. So they called it the Dodds School System, meaning the Department of Defense Dependent Schools.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then that school system actually became the 10th largest school system in the history of the United States through the 1980s into the 1990s.
Okay. Well, that's quite the update. Thank you. I had no idea. So speaking of your organization and the different kinds of brats that are members, what is your website so people can go get more information?
Sure. It's actually very easy. Overseasbrats.com.
Oh, that's easy. Overseasbrats.com. And I believe we have a link on our
run together.
We also have a link on our website at punkbrats.com. If you don't remember overseasbrats.com, go to punkbrats.com and you'll find it there. So one of the things that came out of OSB also is you came up with a word that's special, that's unique to brats when we give each other hugs, right? What's that word? Tell us.
Right. It's called brugs, okay? Mm-hmm. And brugs means brat hugs. It's kind of, as brats, it's hard for us to say goodbye.
Absolutely, yeah.
To me, that's always been the hardest word to say, okay? You, Rose and Lisa, your word is later.
See you later.
For us, it's brugs. It's kind of just a nice affirmation that we are brats and that we embrace each other, and so that's our word.
I love that word, brugs. I love that we have our own flower, like the dandelion. I love now that we have a word, brugs. See you later. I mean, we just don't like to say goodbye. It's just not a cool way to say good, part ways with someone that's final. Special. Yeah, it's too final. Exactly.
It's just too final for us. And, having the friendships that, as kids, we had to say goodbye to because we didn't know we were going to see these people again. And frankly, most of us thought we would never see anybody again.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, oh boy, guess what, Rose?
Is it time?
It's time for the lightning round. You know what that is, Joe?
I sure do.
Okay, so
are you ready?
I'm going to be asking you a series of questions, and these are just rapid fire questions. Just say whatever comes off the top of your head. If you want me to pass on a question, feel free just to say pass, and we'll go from there.
Yeah,
we can either come back to it, or you think of something, or we can just move on. So we're going to start with a place you've never visited before that you would like to visit.
Poland.
Cool. So what song would you choose to play every time you walk into a room?
Are you ready for this? Bang Shang-a-lang by the Archies.
Cool. I'll have to look that one up. I don't think I'm familiar with that one. Okay, so what was the last movie you watched?
It was probably one of the Christmas movies on Hallmark.
Okay. What is your go-to snack?
Unsalted nuts.
Okay, good. So, holidays in the sun or snow?
In the sun.
Cool. And time travel to the past or future?
Time to travel to the past.
Okay. And seeing that we're having the holidays come up, what is your favorite holiday tradition?
Just exchanging greetings with a great group of brats and checking in with those that are members of Overseas Brats to see how they're doing on their holidays and, where we can provide some help, maybe.
I like that. That's great. Me too. Next question. Cats, dogs, or both?
Dogs.
So what would you want your last meal to be?
Pizza.
And finally, what celebrity, dead or alive, would you invite to dinner?
I would probably invite Abraham Lincoln.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's cool. That's a nice one. Okay.
You got through the lightning round.
Thank you so much for playing along.
Woo.
Well, Joe, we've really enjoyed speaking with you. One thing that Rose and I love about Punk Brats is all of our guests are so diverse, and we learn so many different things.
Yeah, this has been really educational episode, actually, for me. I learned quite a bit.
Yeah.
Wow.
And if you want to learn more, if you're out there and you want to learn more history, become a member of Overseas Brats. Rose and I just joined. You can join, like Joe said, at overseasbrats.com. Joe, is there an email address that they can send their
if they want to contact me directly, my email address is Joe's in my name, Joe, OSB, which is short for Overseas Brats, PRES, which is my title, president, and then the number's 1955@gmail.com.
Okay. If y'all didn't catch that, we'll put that on our website as well. But
thank you.
But before we say our word, we will say yours first. So, Joe, thank you. Brugs to you. Brugs.
Brugs to you, Joe.
Brugs, Joe.
Brugs to you and Rose.
Virtual Brugs.
Virtual Brugs. But yes, everybody, if you're a military brat out there, don't say goodbye. don't say those words. Say brugs or see you later, right? And I guess we've come to that time, Rose.
Yes. See you later.
Thank you, Joe. See you later.
Rugs.
That was a great interview with Joe. It makes me think about, how we're so different in age and different generations, but no matter what the age, no matter what the generation, the brat is still the brat. We all still have the same experiences, you know?
Yeah, I was really surprised that he could have been talking about you or me.
Exactly.
And what we went through. And I guess the emotions, the experiences. Yeah.
Yeah. But
that was.
And he went to the International School of Tehran. Wow.
Yeah. And that was the other thing that was really cool is that he went to an international school. So not all military brats attend an international school or a DoDDS school.
He did both. He did DoDDS.
He did all three.
All three, public, DoDDS, and international like us. Wow. Well, that was a great interview. Glad we can get different generations on here. Thank you, Joe. Great. That was awesome. Well, we're coming to a close, and I think that we need to highlight a couple of people before we close out. You want to sing?
No, don't make me sing. Nobody wants to hear us sing,
okay,
Lisa.
I'll give you the... Go ahead.
Well, we'd like to wish our husbands, Craig and Chris, happy birthday.
Happy birthday. It's their birthday month.
Happy birthday. Yep. Birthday month, December. Lisa likes to celebrate the entire month for her birthday. She's a month celebrator.
Hell yeah. Chris is a Sagittarius. Is Craig?
No, Craig is a Capricorn.
Chris is 12/12 and he's 12/22. Wow, my other brother-in-law is 12/21. So lots of December babies. But happy birthday to those guys. Happy birthday, Monkey Boo Productions. We couldn't do it without you. And
could not. He's the one who puts it all together. He does the magic with the buttons, and he's the reason this podcast is even a podcast. Yeah, so thank you, Monkey Boo, and happy birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday to these guys. They're wonderful to us. They're wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. But anyway, before we close out, again, call us. Our phone number is 512-254-5989. We want to hear from all brats, non-brats. Just share your story, share anything. It doesn't have to be a story. Just share whatever you want on your mind. Also follow us on our social media. Facebook is Punk Brats, Instagram and X, Punk Brats USA. Our email is info@punkbrats.com. And our website is www.punkbrats.com. It's time, Rose.
Yes, Lisa, I think we've come to the part where we say, see you later.
Yes, because brats never say goodbye. So see you later.
Hi, Lisa and Rose. This is Sierra from Lomita, Texas. My dad was a Navy corpsman for 20 years. So growing up, we moved every 2 to 3 years. And my favorite thing about being a Navy brat would have to be all the different people that we met. And in California, we had what we called the cul-de-sac crew because we lived in a circle on base. And for holidays, birthdays, weekends, we spent all of our time together. Whenever different people would be deployed, we'd all band together and bring meals to each other. We'd babysit each other's kids. And I got to grow up with all those kids. And me being young myself, I get to have all these friends that I used to play with, and now they're getting married, having kids, or choosing a new career path just like myself. Thanks, guys. See you later.